Alright guys, welcome back to another U150 video. Today we're going to have a little discussion about the ban list. Grady and I are going to go over everything that's on the ban list, and then everything that we might think about putting on the ban list, and just some other things like are pertaining to it, kind of as like an our opinion thing, slash cries to the U150 people to ban or unban some of these things. Like please do, please don't. And yeah, anything else?
I'd just like to say, like, they've done a pretty good job, like, all things considered. Like, I don't want people to interpret this as like, oh, we're trashing these guys. These guys have no idea what they're doing. Like, I think they've got like 99% of this thing right. I love this format, and it can't have been easy to just like come up with these rules like out of nowhere. So
That's true.
I don't want people to like misinterpret us.
Yeah, no, they do a good job of regulating things to be banned. Like the moment Garbage or Trash Lanch came out, they were like, yeah, we gotta ban that. Like they did a good job of like making sure the things. But we're gonna take a look at some of them that might be outdated. I know because they just unbanned Bundle B and Bingometric. Like they unbanned those like 4 months ago. So I think there's like one or two that we think that should be unbanned, and like one or two that we think should be banned, based off our findings in the last 3 months. So we're going to go card by card. The first one is the U150 rule itself of EXs, big boy EXs being banned. Yes.
Well, not specifically EXs.
But yeah, no, because nowadays we have like the Regigigas and.
But yeah,
that's
for the most part, yeah.
For the most part, yes. I think that's a good rule. I think it should stay. I don't think it needs to be lowered or anything like that. I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. That would just completely change. Then it would just become like big basics. Every deck would just be big basics, and it'd be not as fun.
That'd be horrible. That's the perfect rule, and that's like then you have to change the name of the format. So
yeah.
Moving on, Muck from Fossil, 100% needs to be banned.
Yeah, there's no way you could have this as a card in UN50.
No. 70 HP is like the only thing that I would like. You could argue like, oh, it's fine, but like, no, like it just shouldn't be.
Yeah, this card's busted. It's like Garwador with no counterplay.
Espeon from Aquapolis.
Yes.
Thoughts?
This is just banned because of the Shuckle combo, correct?
Shuckle combo is one of them, but there are other cards that are like when you attach an energy from your hand to one of your Pokemon, like do X effect. I think there's one that's like attach an energy from your hand and deal 10 damage.
Huh.
Is that a thing? If there's a card like that?
I'm honestly not 100% sure. I just thought this was banned because of the Shuckle combo, which is on actually like the next page if you want to show it real quick.
Shuckle, oh well, yeah, we're going to talk about Shuckle.
And then Fortress too, right?
What do you mean Fortress?
Oh, no, okay. But yeah, this is just banned
because of the
Shuckle interaction, I thought.
Well, the Fortress, like when you attach an energy from your hand to Fortress.
Yeah, but that's also banned.
Yeah, so it is. So yeah, Espeon is banned because of that combo, and I think they keep it banned just in case anything comes out with that combo.
Yeah.
So they don't have to keep banning things.
Like keep adding, like you can't have Espeon and blank in the same deck.
Yeah, and Espeon, it's one of those things that like because it's on the ban list, it doesn't actually ruin any decks, you know?
Yeah.
Like nobody was gonna use Espeon. If it comes unbanned, like it doesn't become like the best card ever.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make any decks busted.
That's the thing, like even though this is banned, even if it was unbanned and like Fortress and Shuckle were still banned, I have no idea what, if anything, you would actually play this in.
Yeah, I think it's just for future cards. Like if something would come out with like, hey, when you attach an energy, deal X damage, then like you're like, oh well, now I have to ban that card, you know.
Right.
So I think they do that. But yep. Dusknoir, Dark Palm Dusknoir. Thoughts, questions, comments, concerns?
This one I actually kind of don't really agree with, if I'm being honest.
So the reason that it's banned is because you could theoretically just pick and choose your opponent's Pokemon and shuffle them back into their deck, right?
Right.
It limits their bench to 3. So if they ever bench more, like even if you ever bench more, like you Uxie or whatever, then they can be like, oh, bye-bye Claydol.
Right.
Like, oh, bye-bye your stage 2 that you took so long setting up.
I guess then there's like a situation where people can like Pokepuff and then Dark Palm.
Yeah, it becomes a little bit too broken in the sense of like, not even Pokepuff, like Pokeflute and Target
Whistle.
Yeah, both of those. Because then you can just pick and choose your opponent's Pokemon to be shuffled back in, and 3 bench is really small. Like if it was if your opponent had 5 benched Pokemon, then maybe.
Yeah.
But like 4 it's so limiting, especially in this format.
That's fair. I just see like this stage 2 like bench sitter that doesn't actually attack or anything. I don't know.
But it prevents. The thing is, it prevents your opponent's attackers from ever attacking.
Yeah.
Because you could just gust of wind up a fat bench sitter, dark palm away their attacker.
That's true.
Or attackers. You may choose one of them. Oh, one of them. So like one attacker, but you could like de-evolve and evolve another Dusclops, and you could theoretically take out both of their attackers.
Right.
And then they have to get them back out, which is.
I guess I see that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why it's banned, and yeah, it's a stage 2 bench sitter. If it was unbanned, I feel like I don't know if people would play it in groves, but it would create this monster of a deck where it's like, wow, this is just really fun not to play. Like, it's just really not fun to play against.
It's really fun not to play against it.
Yes. Cool. Yeah. Moving on.
No, I actually like, now that you said that, I really agree with that banning. So
yeah. So here are some of the more interesting ones I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Starting with Gardevoir, Telepath Gardevoir.
Yes.
I think you know my thoughts. What are your thoughts?
Well, I know you advocate that this shouldn't be banned.
I don't think it should be banned.
I just think Psychic Lock type of effects are very inherently broken. Like, there's not very much. The only counterplay is Ranger, which no one plays anyway. So like,
right. Do you think it's banned for the Psychic Lock or for the Telepass?
I don't think it's for the Telepass. Like, there's other cards that do similar things to the Telepass. Like,
right.
Like there's the Melodic that does. It's sharing. It's from their hand, but similar kind of thing.
I mean, I get it, but the thing is, I don't think people tech this into. The reason that I think it should be unbanned is that people don't tech they wouldn't tech Gardevoir into everything.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You could build a deck around Telepath specifically, but I don't. It's not as like like it really only they did this to nerf the Gardevoir archetype.
Mm-hmm.
Really, that's it. So they said, look, we think this one specific Gardevoir archetype is busted, so we're going to nerf it a little bit. I think that's what it is. Yeah, you could build decks around it, but that's a discussion for another day. I don't think decks specifically built around Gardevoir would be all necessarily 100% busted, because you do need some support around it. You need to be able to get 3 energies on there somehow, and I think the best way of doing that is with the other Gardevoir support. So, in essence, you're just playing Gardevoir. So, if we're just going to target ban certain combos that we like, not certain combos, but certain archetypes that we think are busted, then why aren't we banning like a certain Magnezone, a certain Jumpluff, a certain Kingdra, a certain this, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And that's why I think it should be unbanned, because it is a very specific, we're going to nerf this archetype, but we're not going to touch any other archetype ever, because no other archetype has been touched.
Yeah, and Gardevoir isn't even like tier 1 or anything.
No.
So.
I think with Telepass, it would make it tier 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Because of Psychic Lock, but 110 damage these days is just not hard to get around. You know, it's also weak to Psychic, so like Uxie is gonna deal some damage against it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, I don't think it's that hard to necessarily deal with. Yeah, you can't play Pokepowers, that really sucks, but
that's a good point. None of these cards are hitting like specific archetypes besides this one. I feel like,
and that's why I don't like it banned. But you know,
okay, I can see that.
I get that all of a sudden, like, because it's not, you're not going to tech it into decks, right?
Right.
Because we're not teching in Fire Red Leaf Green Pidgeot, and that's arguably like a better bench 1 sitter.
Yeah.
Right. Like, cool. It's good to get another supporter from your opponent's discard pile, but it's also cool to get any cards you want every single turn, with arguably a similar decent attack and clutch and a free retreat. So
yeah, that's fair. I could see this being unbanned.
So I don't think people would tech it into a lot of things. It would just make the Gardevoir archetype better. So that's my case for Gardevoir. Iron Shell Fortress.
I think this card's 100% warranted as a ban.
Yeah, because you can put it in any energy rainer. And
you just have a stupid donk deck.
Yeah, you play Mr. Mime, and I mean, not even a donk deck. You just can wait to set up.
Yeah.
So that one, 100%. Yeah, it's silly. Mesprit, I think it should. I saw deserving.
Yeah, this is like the ways you could loop. This would be so easy to loop in U150. You could literally Psychic Mind every single turn if you wanted to.
Yep, scoop up, item finder, scoop up, dodge machine, scoop up, AZ, Prime
Fuji,
AZ.
Seeker, or
Yeah.
this would just be busted. So
Yeah, so 100%. Seeker.
100% as well. Just because this would create Porygon 2 donk. If you play any unlimited, I'm sure you're familiar with that.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can Seeker, like, pick up your Porygon 2, put it back down, verse Seeker, download Seeker, and you could Seeker like 3 or 4 times a turn, and then use like some attack to knock out their active, and then they just lose the game.
Yeah, it'd make it very unhealthy and very stupid. So those are all good warrant bans, except for, like I said, I don't think the Gardevoir.
So yeah, I think the only one so far is Gardevoir that we wouldn't have banned. So
yeah, Gardevoir wouldn't ban, and then like Espeon, like we get it why it's banned, but if you unban it, just keep a moderation on like future cards, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So those two. Shuckle.
Shuckle is completely warranted.
Energy Rain.
This would just create a stupid draw engine for Energy Rain decks.
And you could even just like attach them all to one thing, and then you could swoop it away.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, you just do this, or you like scoop it up and do it again, like whatever.
Yeah. Do some effect. Yeah, that's crazy.
Go ahead.
I'm just gonna move on.
Okay.
But you said you could do what?
Oh, I was gonna say you could like play it with the Magnezone, so you could attach a ton of lightnings and then just like move them around and then pick it back up. So,
yeah, there's a lot of broken combos. Sableye, I think, is warranted.
You do?
Yes. Because you could create some really gross lock combos. I know that it's kind of weird to me, though, that they unbanned Diggersby recently. Mm-hmm. And Diggersby has the same attack for DCE, take 2 items from your discard and put them into your hand.
Right.
And I get why it's busted, but I think like you should either ban both or don't ban both. Right. I know Diggersby is like in theory harder to set up. You need a DCE and you need to evolve, and Sableye is just a basic with 1 energy. But
I just don't know.
I want to hear your thoughts.
What kind of combo do you make with this? Like,
I mean, this makes red card lock busted.
How so?
You can junk hunt now back item finder and trick shovel.
Yeah.
And you play it just like Sablegarb.
I guess that's fair.
And then, like, the thing about red card lock right now is that it's very fragile. And, like, if they take top 3, this, and this. But, like, Sableye, like, lets you control a lot more of the game.
So then this would just be, like, Sableye Slowking, like, top deck manipulation, you think?
I think so. I don't know. I don't know if it would be necessarily...
I'm actually kind of curious, like, if we tried this, if it would actually work. It's kind of hard for me to say, like... Because if we built this archetype just out of our own curiosity and it was just busted, then we're like, alright, this is fine. But if we built it and it was still just fragile and shitty, I'd be like, hey, we can unban Sableye, it's not a big deal.
Yeah. I mean, I could be on the fence about it. Like, if they unbanned it, I'd be like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
It probably should be banned, but it's not going to break the format. The format wouldn't suck, you know? Yeah. Like, it wouldn't go in every single deck. It would go in a good amount of them. I think it's a pretty good, like, recovery option.
Yeah.
Like being able to junk hunt like mid game for an item finder and a junk arm.
I guess you could also loop life do probably. I don't know.
I mean, you could probably loop life do anyways.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's one on the fence, and I'd love to hear like their thoughts specifically on it, and that's why the Diggersby unbanning was so curious to me.
Yeah.
Because I thought
Diggersby is obviously worse, but like.
Right. We should put Diggersby in red card lock though.
I mean, we should try it.
Because we have Bunnelby in there already.
Yeah.
So, and since we're putting DCs with Coco in there, oh man.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Oh man. Okay, anyways. Miltank, I agree.
Yeah, 100%.
Because this would be put in every single Stage 2 deck, of which there are tons of, and you wouldn't even really attack with your Stage 2 deck, you'd really just attack with Miltank. It's just like, shitty little like, oh cool, I'm going to come up and bop all of your stuff.
I'm going to bop all your clay dolls for 80.
Yeah. Quick. It's kind of crazy to think that this Miltank is quote-unquote busted in this format.
Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't think it, but... And I mean, the thing is, like, every Stage 2 would benefit from this equally, so I guess, like, it wouldn't, like, make any specific deck any better, but, like, it's still just stupid to have every deck play this one attacker.
Yeah, it would make it really boring because you would get into these, like, Miltank wars where... Because, like, a muscle band knocks out your opponent's Miltank.
Yeah.
So, like, you get into these weird Miltank wars, and it's very reminiscent of, like, Mewtwo wars, and, like, that just wasn't fun, so it would be very much the same. You could honestly just play like Mill Tank and Stage 2s. You could play like you could play if the Telebus Gardevoir was there. You could play Telebus Gardevoir. You could play Quick Search Pidgeot. You could play XY Greninja.
Yeah,
you could play all these.
You could just play like support stage 1, stage 2s, and then just attack with Miltank.
Yeah, and that's just a dumb deck. Like that's not fun. Actually, that would be actually kind of busted. I feel.
Yeah.
For especially
that's why it's banned.
Huh. That'd actually be really cool because then you could just play. Anyways, Trevenant XY.
100%.
100%. Just because like item lock in the active isn't necessarily busted. It's the fact that like you can attack with the break, you can attack with Tree Slam. Like you're attacking with item lock for damage.
I had to play this shit in expanded and standard for like 5 years. I don't want it in my U150 games.
Nope, get it out of here. So no, very warranted the ban. So the only one on this page, like I said, Sableye, like that big question mark, but this page, the other three are very yes.
Yes.
And then second to last page here, Wobbuffet.
Wobbuffet, I think, is 100%. This would be really good in like hit and switch kind of things.
Hit and switch,
even just as like an attacker, it's not that bad.
That's what I'm saying. You could just make it yourself. You could do one Coco spread or like 2 Coco spreads, and then just put in the Active and Psychic Assault till the cows come home.
Or you could do like the old school Crobat Wobbuffet kind of thing.
Yep. Or just a lot of dirty combos with it. So.
Yeah.
Entei Combat Blaze.
I know your thoughts on this one.
What's my thoughts?
I know you think it's stupid that this card is banned.
Well, not necessarily. Okay. This is another situation like Sableye where if you are banning Entei AOR, why aren't you banning Keldeo Shining Legends?
Right.
So this deck, I mean, I get it why it's good, because you can tech a Blacksmith and 2 Fire Energies into every single deck, and now you have this big non-EX attacker that's just going to swing for a shitload, right?
Yes.
I think it's kind of stupid that it's banned, because, like, that's not a combo that you necessarily, like, loop.
Yeah.
You know? I think it's a good tech attacker in a lot of things, and then, yes, like, Entei starts becoming more like Miltank, where you find it in a lot of decks, but it's not going to define... It's not going to define the format like Miltank would.
I mean, I guess I agree with this. I just think I kind of actually agree with them. I think the power level on this is just too high, and it would make Blacksmith and Fire decks too good in general, I feel like. I mean, Blacksmith is already a busted card in a lot of archetypes anyway.
Right. I'm at about a 75% like yes, it should be banned, but like if it was unbanned, I wouldn't raise a fit.
Right.
And that's what makes me so curious why Keldeo is not banned, because like you could tech Aqua Patch into a lot of things.
Yeah.
And do a similar thing. Like it's a little bit more, and the Keldeo's an EX, but like you still could just like start teching the Keldeo into things. And
right. I mean, I think the EX is a big distinction too.
If this was an EX, what would you say?
I mean, that's another option that we actually haven't talked about. Is like instead of banning them, should they be like EXs? Like that's weird to have like specific cases for it, but
I would say all of these are deserving of the ban, no matter what, of EX or non-EX. But Entei, if you make it an EX, is it busted?
I don't think so. I think it's perfectly balanced if it's an EX.
Interesting.
It's on the same level as like the Lightning Raikou or something, I would say.
Interesting.
That's kind of like the same niche it would fill.
Interesting. I don't know. It's a very weird case, I think, with Entei.
I mean, I'm not saying like if this was unbanned, it would just dominate the format, but I think it's just the power level is slightly too high.
Yeah, makes sense. Greninja.
And the Greninja Break, yeah.
And Greninja Break. I think these are both very deserving. I know why. Like Shadow Stitching's obviously like they thought the same thing with Gardevoir, both the Psychic Lock and Shadow Stitching sort of thing. Yeah. But I think the thing that puts this over is it's a 130 is night and day difference than 110. Especially in this format. Free retreat, colorless.
Yeah.
The fact that you can splash it, like Psychic Lock, you still need the Psychic and 2 energies, 1 colorless energy.
Yeah. That's
what makes this busted.
Yeah, I think Greninja would be like the best deck in the format if these two were unbanned.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then Greninja Break would be just silly, stupid good if it was like.
Can you imagine just like Shadow Stitching and Giant Water Shuriken every turn? That would just shut out almost every deck.
They didn't have this banned for one of the tournaments they did, and like it dominated that tournament.
Yeah, I can't imagine a world where this is unbanned in U150.
No, awful. And then the last one's Trash Lance Garbodor. Like,
Yep.
yeah, 100%, duh. Like, because then you could just loop Gardevoir. You could put 4 Trebuchets and 1 Garbodor and just keep bopping things.
Yeah, that would just be silly.
Yeah, it wouldn't be fun. On a non-EX, too.
Yeah.
And then all Spirit Links.
I think that's kind of warranted too,
Yep,
because the Megas are on like a much higher power level than anything else.
yep.
And if you didn't have the downside of losing your turn, I think Megadex would just dominate over most things.
Yeah, you could play. Well, you can't play Mega Rayquaza because of the other ruling of you can't Mega Evolve basic Pokemon. But
Right.
like Mega Manectric, like they just got off the unban list. If you could Mega Manectric every single turn, like,
Yeah.
oof,
Stuff like Primal Groudon, maybe.
you can't play Primal Groudon because you can't evolve it from a basic.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah. Just trying to think of some like other megas. I don't know. There's some other ones, but I think Manetric's like a big one.
Sceptile.
Mega Sept. Oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be pretty good. So, warranted. And then the restricted list.
Yes.
The Alakazam Uniclus thing. Hit me with this.
Okay, so the point of this is, if you don't know, is that you have the two different damage swappers, and then both of these, all like the other cards, the Porygon 2 and the Mismagius part of the restricted list, they all have ways of like creating an infinite heal combo. Like, they can either return to your hand or attach as a tool and then come back to your hand. Just it's like an infinite heal combo basically.
Mhm.
But I personally don't think Infinite Heal is very good in this format. There's a card called Hexmaniac that shuts off this whole combo. And if you can't Lysander and one hit a 90 or 80 HP Pokemon, your deck sucks anyway. So like,
And a 90 HP EX Pokemon.
yeah. So I really don't. I know why they banned it, because they probably thought, oh, like you can just tank for days and no one's ever going to be able to get through this Infinite Heal combo. But I think the prevalence of Hex and Lysander effects really make this banning kind of irrelevant, in my opinion.
Yeah. I agree. They probably had some sort of combo that they thought of off the top of their head. Like they probably know of a combo that makes this like way too busted. But you're right. I think Hex just like makes it kind of irrelevant because you have to build this. This is another archetype targeting thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to build a deck centered around Alakazam or Uniclus. You're not going to tech in a Stage 2 line and a Stage 1 line, along with your bench sitters, on some of your other Pokemon just to get this infinite heal combo, when you probably just could Max Potion anyways.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
You're not going to tech this into a lot of decks, so it is a specific archetype. So they are targeting that archetype, which I'm not a fan of to begin with, right?
If they have some broken combo that I have not thought of, I will eat crow and say this should be banned, but I, for the life of me, cannot think of what it would be.
Same here. I think it's more like the Primal Groudon sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
But like then you just like Max Potion. Like I just don't.
Yeah,
Oh no, you don't Max Potion. You Hex. Like yeah, that's the thing. Is like I think this was restricted before Hex came out.
okay. Well, that makes more sense.
That would
but-
make way more sense why they haven't revisited it. But no, it can't because they added Weavile Steam Siege, and that Steam Siege is
Oh.
after Hex.
Yeah, then I don't agree with this at all.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, yeah, it sounds a little bit busted with, like, Restore Primal Groudon.
No, it doesn't.
I mean,
I still just don't think that.
well, no, in that scenario, then you just, like, retreat like, you just switch the Primal Groudon and wait till you're not hexed anymore.
But then they're just gonna like Lysander kill you. I just don't understand. Like, how are you gonna keep getting Alakazam out over and over again?
I don't know. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm at about I don't know, 15% sure it stays restricted, 85, like, why the hell?
Could you make this into like Stoutland block somehow? I don't know. Because then they couldn't hex out of it.
Maybe, but Stalin Lock is, like, a different beast altogether.
Yeah.
So, who knows? Possible inclusions onto the U150 list.
Okay, so these are the cards that are not currently on the list, but we,
Or
through our testing, have kind of figured.
or someone has.
Yes.
Not necessarily us, because one of these, maybe a couple of these we don't necessarily 100% agree on.
Yes. Yeah. Can we start with the Porygon Z then? Yeah.
Sure, yeah. Start Porygon Z.
This is one that we kind of, I think we both underestimated the impact it would have when it first came out. We're like, oh, it's going to go in some things, it's going to go in like spread decks, and that's going to be kind of its niche. But then it's kind of slowly started creeping its way into everything and kind of deciding games like who can get the first N Porygon Z combo off.
Or if they play red card or something like that.
Yeah. And I
Porygon Z
think it
disruption.
creates like a really toxic kind of end game where whoever gets the Porygon Z off in the most advantageous position just like wins the game. in my opinion. A lot of the times, it kind of erases like what happened the rest of the game if you can get this combo off.
Correct. And the thing that I always point to, that I pointed to before I think Grady realized that it was busted before I did. The thing I always pointed to was like, okay, there's this thing called Omastar that did the same thing, and that was never busted. And this is even an EX. Like, what makes it busted? It's the fact that the Porygon 2 is put in everything. It's the ease of access. It's the fact of, like, it doesn't kill archetypes. Because, like, this card was amazing for Lost World when it came out. I was like, oh man, Lost World's going to be, you could de-evolve and then hurl into darkness without having to set up this Omastar. Like, whoa, that's so great. So if you take out Porygon Z, you're like, okay, sucks, I'm still going to play the Omastar. Like, decks that really, really relied on the de-evolve effect can still get that de-evolve effect from Omastar. But every single deck playing Porygon Z, like every single deck in the format playing it, I think is just, like you said, a little too good because it creates that toxic endgame.
Yes.
So
it kind of just like, if it makes sense, it like erases the rest of the game in a sense, because like, even if you go down to your opponent having 1 prize, and you're at 8 prizes, you can still just Porygon Z, end them, and you can literally just come back from that, and your opponent, if they top deck's dead, just can do nothing about it.
Right. So it's, in one sense, it's kind of cool to have this like weird kind of skill where you're like, all right, when do I Porygon Z end them? Like, it's this cool little like skill play, but like then your opponent, then you're just like banking on luck for your opponent never to top deck. Like, like when do I like do this sort of thing? So
I don't know. I mean, I really love this, like the design of this card, and I think it creates some cool interactions. I just think the cool interactions are kind of outweighed by the toxicity it kind of presents in this format.
The fact that it's in every single deck.
Yes. I think if the Porygon 2s like weren't universal and they weren't that good, I think this would be totally fine.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the same. It's the same with the Omastar, right? Like, fossils are way easy to get out in this format because Mysterious Fossil exists. You can just evolve it from that, right? It's essentially just another stage 2, and you could just still play Omastar. So, but the fact, ease of access. If there was like a Claydol break that did the same thing, we would also be complaining about it.
Yes.
So, anyways, so Porygon Z we think should be banned. Moving on. Tapu Koko.
This is kind of one we've also... Because at first, this is kind of the same thing, actually. We thought, oh, Tapu Koko is going to have a home like in spread decks as that's going to be its niche. But it's kind of found its way more and more into just lightning decks in general.
Or decks that can just play a DCEs.
Yeah.
Like, I found myself, if the deck plays a DCE, you should just play a Tapu Koko. Like,
yes.
Because you could Flying Flip and 110 damage, like... While on a stage 2 seems a little bit more balanced because it gives both players the same amount of turns to set up their stage 2s and start swinging. It's just, it's on a basic. It's on a non-EX basic that has free retreat. Like,
it's basically like, in some decks, it's basically like 120 damage for a DCE, and that's basically what it is in a lot of things.
Yeah, and combined with the Porygon Z, just like means that these two cards like. These two cards are getting teched into just like a lot of things that are just like, oh, cool. I can always just fall back to this Flying Flip initialize strategy.
Yeah, I mean, you get 2 or 3 Flying Flips off, you can de-evolve, take 3 or 4 prizes.
Yep. Would you like it if Porygon Z was banned? Do you think Tapu Koko would still be banned?
That's a tough question. I don't think you'd necessarily need to. I think in an ideal world, I think Tapu Koko would just be an EX, but unfortunately, it's not. So.
Agreed. Yes, I think if Tapu Koko was an EX, it's fine exactly where it needs to be. Boom, we're good. Yes. If Porygon Z gets banned, I'm like, okay, maybe not Tapu Koko. Like, Tapu Koko, fine, don't be banned. Right now, as it stands, I am 50-50. If it gets banned, I get it. If it doesn't get banned, cool. It's not breaking the format, but it's not necessarily like trending in the correct direction for a healthy format.
Yes, I agree. I think you're right, though. It kind of also depends on if Porygon Z stays around. I think I would like to see one of these two banned, at least.
Oh, yeah. No, for sure. 100% one of them. I don't know if you necessarily need to ban both of them, but if you ban both of them, I'm going to be like, cool, this format is still healthy.
Yes.
So, and the format's necessarily not unhealthy right now, right? It's just that it's the splashability of these two cards that make them so busted.
Yes, I agree.
Moving on to Spiritomb. I forget what video we talked about Spiritomb in.
It was one of them. I think we've mentioned it on several occasions, but
We've talked about it, and to the cliff notes on our discussion, if you're new to the program and you didn't hear whatever video the Spiritomb talk was on, we talked for like 20 minutes on this card. It's the fact of like right now, like yeah, active item lock is kind of busted. Both players kind of have this stale opening where they're both Spiritomb starts. But imagine a format without Spiritomb. Now it's you don't play any supporters.
yeah,
You just play item cards and you plow through your deck every turn. Because the thing that Spiritomb does is that if you don't open a supporter, you're kind of donezo.
keeps people honest.
Yeah, it does. Like, there are so many times where I'm just like, oh man, this hand would be busted as long as he doesn't start Spiritomb.
Yeah, you start Luxury Ball, Professor Oak, Junk Arm,
Yeah, you're like, ooh.
and you're like, oh, if they don't start Spiritomb, I just go off this turn, but I have to stay honest and like keep this collector or something,
Yep. So I like Spiritomb because it does make it so that the game lasts at least 3 turns.
Yeah.
And then from there you can start setting up cooler things. So
Yeah, this is a card that it does kind of suck that it creates early games that all feel like the same, but I think the alternative is much worse.
oh god, yeah. No.
So
I'll take double Spiritomb starts any day of the week over.
yeah,
And the other thing is it doesn't necessarily cause too much of a stale format. I don't think there's too many times where you and I just like drew past turn 4. That maybe happened like once or twice.
yeah,
But after like turn 3 or 4, like once someone hits a Guzma or a Lysander or a switch or something, like then boom.
yeah.
So, and then Clefable.
Yeah, this one wasn't even suggested by us. This was on the U150 Facebook page. It was like under their suspect list, I guess. I think we should also mention the Clefairy when we're talking about this.
Yes. There is a Clefairy from.
You should just pull it up if you can, or
then everyone's gonna see what my tabs are, and they're gonna. Oh shoot! It's from. Anyways, it has Moonberry, so it was basically like an ancient trait for those newer players that says you can. It's just like Delta Evolution. You can basically play the Clefairy and evolve it right away into Clefable. Pretty easy to get out. And Metronome has no downside.
yes.
And the fact that it's not an EX as well. I think.
And it's splashable because it's just a colorless energy.
Right. I think the reason that they're suspecting it is because it is so splashable. I don't know that it necessarily needs to be banned because A, it is a stage 1. They obviously have this logic behind stage 1s because they unbanned Bunnelby. I think in decks that have the room, it becomes really, really good. And
I mean, this is something we've talked about. Like, we should try experimenting with just 1/1 Clefables and more stuff.
And I can see a world where it becomes a card very similar to Miltank, where everyone just kind of has Clefables.
Yeah.
And you're just trying to one-shot your opponent's things.
Yes.
Granted, I don't know if it's that busted to copy your opponent's attacks necessarily. I'm just thinking of some off the top of my head. So the decks that I have built right now, I'm going to take up the 8 decks, we're going to go case by case, and there's going to be some where it's like, wow, Clefable's really busted, and some where it's like, wow, that really sucks. So, Incineroar GX, Clefable's going to just, going to be 2 dead cards.
What?
I mean, sorry, you can copy the GX, but you can copy it once, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's good enough by that, itself right there.
Well, and then they get the Incineroar back out. Oh, there's the second attack where you flip 100 and you slam, or whatever.
Yeah.
But then Incineroar just goes max potion, attach an energy, and they're going to hit you with that first attack.
Yeah.
You're not actually going to gain any pressure with it.
But you can also copy the non-EX Incineroar, the one that does 170.
Right, but I think if you know that your opponent has a Clefable, you don't go into that one, necessarily.
I mean, you're not going to know. I mean, it's just going to come out of nowhere.
Right, but it comes out of nowhere, and then they take 1 prize, and then you knock out Clefable.
Yeah, but they invested a hell of a lot less resources than you did.
I mean, yeah, I see that, but is that format breaking?
I'm not sure. That's what we're finding out.
Okay. Moving on to the next one is Jump Bluff. I can see that, why you'd ban it for Jump Bluff, because you can copy almost any Jump Bluff's attacks. Gyarados.
Gyarados would be useless, obviously.
Red card lock. You wouldn't even be able to get it up in red card lock.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one, but okay.
Moving on. Weavile.
Weavile would be interesting. I mean, we're gonna find that
We're
out.
we're gonna find out. Stage 1 rush. I don't know if it's necessarily busted.
I mean, it's already in stage 1 rush.
No, but what if someone was playing it against stage 1 rush?
Oh.
You see?
I mean, yeah. I mean, you'd get like Carbominimal's attacks, and then you'd get like Yanmega. I mean,
Vespiquen.
Vespiquen.
But at the same, like
your deck probably isn't geared to optimize for that, so it wouldn't be great.
Yep. Kingdra.
Kingdra, you get. Oh no, because most of the like good attacks are revolving around waters in your discard.
Yeah.
So.
Or Tribulate. Like
yeah.
You have Tornado Shot, but Tornado Shot says discard a water energy from this Pokemon to deal 30 to one of your opponent's bench.
Right.
So you're copying 90 damage or a 90 damage snipe.
Yeah.
So not great there. And then Noivern. Like you're gonna come up and like either Sonic Volume or Distort them. Like you're gonna hit them for 50 or whatever, and they're gonna be like a cool bop. Like
yeah,
they're gonna knock you back out. So that was about 50%.
I don't know. I actually think this is one where, since we haven't played it in very many decks, we don't actually have enough experience to really make a good judgment call on this one.
Right.
I think we should. I think we honestly should start trying this as a 1/1 line in a lot of things, and that'll give us more insight on whether or not the power level is high enough that needs to be done.
Do you think it makes Stage 1 Rush busted?
I don't think it in itself it makes Stage 1 busted. I think if you take it out, you find something else that's good, and you're fine.
Right.
Like I don't think this. I don't. If Stage 1 loses this card, I don't think Stage 1 is not Tier 1 or anything.
Right, and that's kind of what I'm trying to say here is that the card is not busted enough to make one archetype super good. Right. It's not busted enough to tech into everything necessarily. Because
I mean that we've seen, we haven't tried.
Right, I know that we've seen, but I don't think it's like I don't ever like I think about it a lot because I'm like, yeah, this Clefable's like really good, but I don't ever like when I sit down and build a deck, I'm not like, oh man, I need this Clefable, much like I would be like, oh man, I need this Miltank.
Right.
You know, it's not that same level.
Yeah.
And that's why I think they're currently on the suspect list because they're trying to figure out if it's truly busted.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know. I could go either way, and I think we need more experience playing this card in different things.
For sure, I wouldn't be upset if we ever lost it because it's not in that many things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's it's not one that I'm like necessarily attached to. It doesn't make an archetype work. So if we lost it, then whatever. But
yeah.
So
I mean, an interesting thought: you could ban the Moondoll Stone Clefairy.
Ooh.
Then you actually have to like evolve it. Like normally, or have BTS.
I actually like that a lot better.
That's kind of part of why it's so broken, is you can just always throw it down as a 1/1. But if you have to like evolve it normally, or like Wally into it, or have BTS, it's not as good, I don't think.
I think I like that a lot better if the Moonstone Clefairy wasn't a thing.
Like,
then I would be like,
you can justify banning that, but
if it wasn't a thing, I would like 100% be like, yeah, this card's like fine. You know?
Yeah.
Huh. That's actually, I don't know if you would actually ban the Moonstone Clefairy. That would be kind of weird.
That would be like banning the Frogadier and leaving the other Greninjas not banned.
Right? But I could see why they would do that. So, I don't know. Anyways, and then moving on to the Elite Four, is there anything that we need to discuss on the Elite Four? Do we think that need to add anything or remove anything?
The only things we've ever talked about is Professor Oak and Hex Maniac, I feel like.
Mm-hmm. I would say Oak would be the only one. I would hate Hex on here.
Yeah, I would too.
Like, yeah, you can Hex loot people out of games, but like that's part of like the skill. And Hex is balanced enough with the fact that it's got a supporter requirement behind it.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's.
But like Oak is really degenerate sometimes. I feel like because you can junk arm Oak, junk arm, whatever. And last through like 30 cards without even playing a supporter.
Yeah, like, oh shit, I need to hit something this turn. Oh shit, oh I got an Oak. Oh yes, I got a Marley's. Oh yes, I got an Item Finder. Oh yes, I got a Dowsing Machine. Yeah. Like, cool.
So
I hit the one energy in my deck like that I needed to hit from that.
I would be really okay if Oak was on this list. If I'm being honest,
you would be Oak A.
Okay.
Thanks for watching. I mean, that's like a perfect way to end the video.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you guys have any thoughts on what should be banned, what shouldn't be banned, please let us know. We don't control that. contrary to some popular belief. But it's not us. We're just pioneers of the format, and we love this format a lot more than you do. So yeah, in summary, I would say Espeon, we get it, but if it was unbanned, whatever. Gardevoir should be unbanned because it's targeting. Sableye is like, okay. Entei we will fight about. These need to be unbanned, or unrestricted rather, and then ban either Porygon Z or Coco, or both. Keep Spiritomb, never ban Spiritomb, and then Clefable, whatever.
Yep.
And then these are fine, except maybe Oak.
Yes.
Cool. That was a good summary.
Cool. Good talk.
Anything else before we leave, Greedy?
Stay classy.
Stay classy. All right, thanks for watching, guys.